What's up, everybody? Welcome to some Olivia action. Yeah, I wanted to highlight Olivia as a commander because she's being printed in Modern Masters 17. Let's say you did a draft at your local gaming store and you picked up a copy of Olivia and you want to just build a commander deck around her. Well, look no further. Here we are. Or if you have Olivia laying around in one of your trade binders, you want to build her, definitely go for it. She's a pretty fun commander. I've definitely enjoyed playing her so far. But let's start off with Olivia. So we're playing Olivia. We're not playing, but we're covering Olivia. She has flying for 2 mana. She deals 1 damage to target creature. That creature becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Then put a +1 counter on Olivia. Her second ability of 5 mana, gain control of target vampire for as long as you control Olivia. Now let's say you're playing against vampire. You can definitely just gain control of their vampires, but this is one of those times where the mechanics on the card, the flavor, they meet in this beautiful harmony. So you can deal 1 damage to your opponent's creature. You're going to deal 1 damage. Maybe it doesn't kill them, but it turns them into a vampire into its other creature types. Then for 5 mana, you can gain control of their creature. It turns into a vampire, which is going to get the nice bonus from some of our vampire lords and stuff like that. So it's just one of those cards that it's just flavors on point, mechanics are on point, and it's just a pretty fun card to play with. But yeah, as far as this build of the deck, we're definitely going just black-red vampire tribal, trying to get in as much damage as we can. So let's jump into the deck tech. Now, first thing I'm going to start off with is the Aristocrat vampires that we're running. Aristocrats mean sacrificing a creature and making our opponent lose 1 life and us gaining a life. You know, there's more to it. You usually need blood artists out there, another type creature like that. But when it breaks down, basically you're sacrificing one of your creature with some type of a blood artist effect out there to where they're going to gain, they lose a life and you gain 1 life. So let's start with the, actually, that's the removal. Let's go, there we go. Let's start with the Indulgent Aristocrat. He has lifelink for 2 colorless, sacrifice a creature, put a +1 counter on each vampire you control. Now, this is kind of one of those low investment vampire cards that has lifelink, 2 colorless. We can sacrifice one of our creatures and put a +1 counter on all of our vampires. In a pinch, we can use it to sacrifice some creatures to get those blood artist triggers, but it's kind of just does double duty. You know, it does cost 2 to sacrifice a creature. You usually want that to be free, but you can definitely pay 2, sacrifice, put a +1 counter, kind of pumping all your vampires up to where you can get into the spots where maybe you can fly in and push that final damage through. We're also playing the Highborn, so whenever her or another vampire you control dies, pay 1 black. If you do, target creature loses 2 life, target player loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Once again, we're just keeping with that taxing effect to where we can, you know, our opponent goes for some removal and she's out there, we can take advantage of that vampire dying by paying black for her activated ability. We're also running Aristocrats would not be complete without Blood Artists. We are playing Blood Artist. He's a vampire. Excuse me. There we go. Alright, whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, the target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Now that's going to count for our creatures and our opponent's creatures. Let's say you have a bunch of creatures out there and your opponent has 10 creatures out there. We cast one of our removal spells, our board wipes. That's going to kill everybody and you're going to get a Blood Artist trigger for every single creature that was out there. So let's say we had 10, they had 10. That's going to be 20 Blood Artist triggers that they're going to lose 20 life and we're going to gain 20 life. So definitely a really good card. We're also running Zulaport Cutthroat. Zulaport only counts for when our creatures die. So if you go for Damnation or like a board wipe and blow everything up, we're only going to get those triggers for the creatures on our side of the board, but it's a good card to have in the deck. We're also running Falconwrath Noble. It's just a bigger 2/2 body over Blood Artist. He has flying, and then whenever Falconwrath Noble or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and we gain 1 life. We're just looking to get in this point to where if you have like Blood Artist, Zulaport, and Falconwrath out on the battlefield at the same time, you might be able to get into spots where you can start sacrificing some of your creatures and kind of close the game out like that. We're also running Falconwrath Aristocrat. She has flying and haste, and then sacrifice a creature whenever she gains indestructible until end of turn. Then, if the sacrificed creature was a human, put a +1 counter on Falconwrath. I think we're running. Zulaport's the only human in here, so you can definitely sacrifice Zulaport to give it that +1 counter. But if we gain control of some of our opponent's humans, we can definitely sacrifice it and get those +1 counters on there too. So that's kind of a cool little interaction if you're going to steal some of your opponent's humans. But she's an awesome sack outlet for the deck. Sacrifice a creature so she can actually sacrifice herself to her own ability if we just need 1 more Blood Artist trigger for some reason, and then having that indestructible clause. You know, having Falconwrath out there with another vampire lord is almost just, you know, pretty good. And plus she has haste too. Flying in the air for 4 is pretty good. The next one, we're on Malakir Blood Witch. Flying protection from white. Whenever Malakir Blood Witch enters the battlefield, each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So once again, we're keeping with those taxing effects. Where, you know, if we're deploying out vampires every single turn, she's a 5-drop. Get her down. Maybe we can get into spots where we make our opponent lose anywhere from 6 to 10 life in 1 swing, and then still have some vampires to swing in. So that may be just enough getting it down to kind of close it out from there. We're also running Blood Tribute, Sorcery, Kicker, tap an untapped vampire you control. Target opponent loses half of his or her life rounded up. If it was kicked, you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So it's kind of like the Blood Witch, but basically you're losing, their opponent's losing half their life rounded up, and we're going to have a lot of vampires in there, so you can definitely kick it and get it going right there. So that's going to cover the Aristocrat vampires that we're running. We're running some removal vampires in here. Ghoul, Draz, Assassin. Once we get it up to that level 2, we're going to be able to pay 1 black mana and give target creature -2/-2. And then once again, it's just, if we need to use it, we can. If not, it's a 2/2 body, and eventually we can level it up into a 4/4 body, or activate it for 1 black and get that -4/-4. The next one we're running is Blood Cultist. Let's say you're playing against tokens, or they have a bunch of 1/1s out there for some reason. Blood Cultist deals 1 damage to target creature, and then whenever a creature dealt damage by Blood Cultist dies this turn, put a +1 counter on Blood Cultist. So definitely a good way to kind of start picking off maybe your opponent's Birds of Paradise or a bunch of their tokens out there. And fun fact, so you can target Blood Cultist on one of your creatures, deals 1 damage to target creature. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Blood Cultist dies this turn, put a +1 counter. So let's say we're swinging in and we have to make kind of like this alpha swing and trying to get as much damage through. We can ping one of our creatures before it dies and get a +1 counter on there. If they cast a removal spell on Olivia, we can ping Olivia for 1, and then just get a little extra value out of the Blood Cultist. So you can definitely, it's not getting a counter whenever that creature dies. I mean, well, you do get a counter whenever the creature dies, but you can use it to your advantage on something that's being targeted by maybe your opponent's removal. So just a little fun fact. We're also running Captivating Vampire. Other creatures you control get +1/+1, then tap 5 untapped vampires you control. Gain control of target creature, it becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. So it's really not that crazy that we're going to have 5 vampires out there at one time, and then you can also tap Captivating a vampire to its own ability. Gain control, it's going to be a vampire, it's going to get that nice little bonus from our vampire lord. So very nice, very ravishing little Mr. Captivating vampire over there. We're also running Dark Imposter. Pretty fun. It only costs 3 mana, and it has an activated ability of 6. Exile target creature, put a +1 counter on it. Then the Dark Imposter has all the activated abilities of all creatures exiled with it. So let's say we exile our opponent's Arcanist, we can tap the Dark Imposter to draw 3 cards, and then we're going to get that +1 counter. It is a little bit of a mana sink, but if you get it up and running and they don't have an answer for it, it's a really fun card to play with, especially if you start stealing stuff. And this is also talking about Olivia with the cool art part. If you look in the art in the back, you can see the person down at the bottom. The vampire obviously killed them and took their clothes, and they're an imposter now. So it's kind of cool that you can exile these creatures for 6 mana, and all of a sudden we gain their ability. I don't know. I always thought that was pretty cool. We're also running Anawan the Rune Sage. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. Pretty much everything in this deck, I'd say there's probably about 5 creatures in our deck that are not vampires, so you can pretty much always safely get this down to apply some pressure on our opponent. Let's say they're going Voltron, and you can get that nice little sack outlet at the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrificing a creature. So pretty good card. So that's the Aristocrat vampires. We got the removal vampires. Let's go to the Lords, the ones that make everybody nice and big. Playing Strom Kirk. I always want to say Storm so bad, but it's Strom Kirk Captain. He has first strike. Other vampires you control get +1/+1 and have first strike. Awesome vampire lord, and then that first strike bonus is just always really nice because we're looking to put in as much damage in the air. So having a first strike flyer is usually enough to kind of get rid of some of their reach creatures, unless they've got just tons of, big booty creatures over there or something. We're also running Vampire Nocturnus. Solid card, man. Almost always pretty much always your tutor source. I mean, it's just so good. Play with the top card of your library revealed. As long as the top card of your library is black, Vampire Nocturnus and other vampire creatures you control get +2/+1 and have flying. So let's say we have Blood Artist out there. Blood Artist does not have flying. He has too many painting supplies. We have Vampire Nocturnus out there. Blood Artist is going to go to 2/3 and it has flying now. So basically it's kind of going to turn all of our utility vampires into nice lethal threat. Hopefully a nice lethal threat to our opponent. And you can, this is a budget version of Olivia, but depending on your budget, you can definitely run a few, like Sensei's Divining Top and Scroll Rack to kind of make sure the top card of your library is black, where you can get that nice bonus. We're also running Bloodlord Vaskoth as Bloodthirst 3, so that means if an opponent was dealt damage this turn, this creature is going to enter the battlefield with 3/+1 counters on it. It has flying, and then whenever you cast a vampire spell, it gains Bloodthirst 3. So basically, we deal damage, he's going to come in as a 6/6. Then any other vampires that we cast, they're going to come in with 3 additional +1 counters. So let's say we lead off with the Bloodlord, it's a 6/6, and then we just fire off a nice little Ghoul Draz Assassin. It's going to come in as a 4/4. So just for swinging in, taking advantage of us swinging in. So definitely a really good card in the deck. Usually not a tutor source you're looking for, but If it's in your opening hand, you feel pretty good card. We're also running Ashen Moor Liege. Other black creatures you control get +1. Other red creatures you control +1. And then whenever he becomes a target of a spell or ability, an opponent controls that player loses 4 life. It's not a Vampire Lord technically, but it pumps literally everything in the deck. So I'm going to go ahead and include it in our Vampire Lords. So that was the Vampire Lords. Let's go on to the +1 counters. There's a very heavy +1 counter theme in Vampires in Magic. We're running Drana in here. She is flying in first strike. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, put a +1 counter on each attacking creature that you control. The cool thing about this is that during combat, you're going to deal first strike damage first. That's always dealt, and then your creatures deal the regular damage. So you swing in with Drana, you get that first strike damage for 2. Each other attacking creature is going to get a +1 counter on there, and they're going to be added to basically their the total swinging in. So really good way to swing in with her first and give a nice little bonus to everybody else before they deal their damage. And also, so look at Drana, like go over to her boots, and then look at the dude in the bottom right. And I don't know, he's always looked goofy to me, and I just wanted to point that out while I've got the card. And he's a goofy looking dude. He is, man, but he looks like he's happy to be holding the sword and looks like he's happy to be following Drana, so props to him. We're also running Rakish Air. Whenever vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1 counter on it. Pretty simple, swinging in, just going to get that little extra counter on there. We're also running Mephedros Vampire. It has flying, and then each creature you control is a vampire in addition to its other creature types it has. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, put a +1 counter on this creature. So we're running Mogus in here, we're running Balthor, Carnage Gladiator. So basically this vampire turns all of our other non-vampires into vampires, which will give them that nice bonus with some of the lore effects. So if we get a flying Mogus God of Slaughter with a Vampire Nocturnus and this Mephedros vampire out there, I'll take that. Definitely pretty fun. We're also running Necropolis Regent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1 counters on it. It's kind of, like reverse bloodthirst in a way. I don't know what you want to call it, but basically it's just if you get in for 3, that's 3 counters that go on there. Actually, excuse me one second. So if she swings in for 6, she's going to be a 12-11. It turns your little 2-3 flyers into 4-4s or 6-6s, so depending on what their power is. So just a really solid card. Definitely, it could be a tutor source, or it could be something that is in your open hand. You feel pretty good. On to the next one, Thief of Blood. Almost kind of like a removal spell in a way. She has flying. Whenever she enters the battlefield, you're going to remove all counters from all permanents on the battlefield and put them on her. So let's say you're playing against Super Friends. They've got like 5 Planeswalkers out there. You're going to steal all those counters and put them on her and in the form of +1 counters. Now, you're going to steal from your own creatures, but hopefully you should be in a spot where you have a couple Vampire Lords out there, and you're going to be able to take advantage of that. So we did the Lords, we did the +1 counters. Let's go on to the utility vampires. We're running Bloodline Keeper. This is a solid commander card to begin with. If you're running any sort of black commander deck, you can almost run this in there just for the value. But especially in an Olivia or in a Vampire Tribal deck, it's a really good card. Tap, create a 2/2 black vampire creature token with flying, and then for 1 black mana you can transform it. It's still going to be able to make those 2/2 black vampire tokens, but basically it turns into a +2/+2 vampire lord. And like I said, getting into 5 vampires is not that crazy with this deck because we are running Vampire Tribal. So that's what we're trying to do, get into a lot of vampires. So definitely having the Lord of the Lineage coming down, giving everybody a nice little +2 bonus, and still being able to make them is always nice. So, but yeah, Bloodline Keeper, really good card. We're also running Vampire Hexmage, first strike. It's going to be good once we get a few Lords online. And then sacrifice it, remove all counters from target permanent. Once again, just looking to take care of some Planeswalkers. We're running Blade of the Blood Chief. Whenever a creature dies, put a +1 counter on a equipped creature. If that equipped creature is a vampire, put 2 +1 counters on there. So basically, get this down for 1, equip it for 1, start blasting some stuff with Olivia, get those +1 counters on there. Let's say we need to shift it around and move those counters around. You can equip it for 1 and just kind of move it around and move those counters wherever. You don't get to move the counters around, but as you kill creatures, you can kind of distribute the counters around depending on who's got it equipped to. We're also running the Stensia Masquerade. Attacking creatures you control have first strike. Then, whenever a vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1 counter on it. So, definitely a way, that first strike's really nice, and then the just added bonus of whenever they deal damage, put a +1 counter on there. So kind of turns our, if our opponent doesn't have a lot of early threats out, it kind of turns our early vampires into some pretty sizable threats. We're also running Yahini, Undying Partisan. Yahini is Aetherborn, but it's also an Aetherborn vampire, so it kind of fits in perfectly with here, and has a really good sack outlet. Has haste. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1 counter on him, on Yahini, and then sacrifice another creature. It gains indestructible until end of turn. So once again, if we have a few Vampire Lords out there, maybe we destroy some of their creatures, we're going to get those +1 counters on there. Just a solid utility spell to put in here. And this is a budget version of Olivia. It comes in at 30 tickets, which is pretty good price for a commander deck. Now that is online price, so it's going to be a little bit pricier in Paper Magic if you're looking to build this. But going off my list, like I have Badlands in here. I have Badlands because it's like $1 or $2 on Magic Online, and the Badlands is like a $90 card in like paper. So obviously that's something you could cut to shave $90 off the deck. Same thing with Vampiric Tutor. It's a $1 or $2 card. It's $30 in real world, so you can cut the Vampiric Tutor. And then the we're running the Whispering. Oh, actually, our utility creatures. Let me cover that. We're running Mogus, God of Slaughter. Great. We're almost always going to have Devotion online for Mogus. Sorry, I forgot to cover our utility creatures. Running Carnage Gladiator. So whenever a creature, whenever a creature blocks, that creature's controller loses 1 life. So kind of get that nice little taxing effect. Running Balthor the Defiled. 3 black mana, exile Balthor. Each player returns all black and red creature cards from their graveyard. Let's say we get a board wipe, get down Balthor. Let's say it's late game, board wipe, get down Balthor, pay 3 mana, bring everybody back, rinse and repeat. We're also running the Whispering One, Swamp Block at the beginning of your upkeep. Return target creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield. And then each opponent has to sacrifice a creature. And, oh yeah, some fun cards are running Wound Reflection. So usually this is enough to where if you can get in enough damage, swinging it in the air, you can get down Wound Reflection, and just having that extra damage effect is enough for you to close it out. I've definitely closed the game out with it. And we're also running Breath of Fury. Enchant creature you control. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to player, sacrifice it, attach it to a creature you control. If you do, untap all creatures, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So we're looking to get into the spot. Let's say we've got 6 vampires out there. We can swing in the air. We're going to put it on one creature, sacrifice it. Now we have 5 vampires, we're swinging again. Now we have 4 vampires. So we're looking to get into the spots where we can just keep swinging in and get that combat damage in. But yeah, those are the non-vampire utility spells that we're running. Now, back to the cost of the deck. It's coming in at 30 tickets. We're running the Badlands, Vampiric Tutor, and the Whispering One. That's $140 worth of cards that you can just cut if you're building this in paper. So I should be able to build it pretty cheap. You know, $30 for an online commander deck's pretty good. I mean, it's not ultra budget. You're not breaking the bank, and it definitely leaves rooms for you to upgrade the tutor lines and upgrade the board wipes, because that's going to be, and upgrade the mana base. That's going to be your most expensive parts of the deck. But yeah, that's the deck in a nutshell. Hope you enjoyed it, and I've got a few gameplay videos. So if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.